The chant says, I met a stranger yesterday. I put food in the eating place, drinking in the drinking place, music in the listening place. And in the sacred name of the Triune, he blessed me and my house, my cattle and my dear ones. Often, often, often goes the Christ in the stranger's guise. Often, often, often goes the Christ in the stranger's guise. Welcome.
Let me add my words of welcome to those that have already been offered. We are so grateful that the members and friends of the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor, Michigan, are gathered together here this morning, whether nearby or further away. We are grateful that you're here. I am the Reverend Manish Mishra-Marzetti, serving our community as senior minister. I wanted to offer just a few words of preparation and container setting as we enter this time together today. You have already probably noticed that I am in the basement of my home, and many of us, as we're honoring the state of Michigan's shelter-in-place order, are doing similar. We're in similar parts of our home, looking for the best possible lighting to film and offer our community an experience this morning. We are learning together in these times that are indeed challenging for all of us. In that spirit, we've also changed the software platform that is hosting today's experience. Our hope is that this will improve some of the technology issues we were navigating a week ago. I wanted to also offer a word of preparation related to how we are coming together as a community. If we were in our sanctuary in Ann Arbor in person with one another, our typical experience is one of trying to bring our fullest and deepest selves to that experience itself, trying the best we can to let go of the to-do lists, of the chores, of the chatter that resides inside us, the chatter that is imposed by us, on us, by the world around us, by society and its needs. Our time together is one of letting go of a lot of that chatter in service to finding a greater stillness, a stillness that can ground us, center us, and guide us back to our very best selves, folding. I want to invite you, even though technology allows chat functions while watching videos or participating in a video conference call, while the technology allows that, give yourself the gift of letting go of inner chatter and external chatter. Do what you would do on a Sunday morning as if we were fully present to one another in person. Turn yourself over to the experience. Let it still you. Let it ground you. Let it guide you back to your very best, most loving self. That's possible for us. This experience can do that for us. Now, as we try to do that together, the staff team and I are aware that the desire to want to engage in chat conversations online can be reflective of our desire to connect with others. In support of that, we are creating after the Sunday service this morning, a online or virtual social time together. The log-on information for that social time will be provided at the end of this service. And in support of both the chat function that exists with this Sunday service and the social time together following the service, members of our Living Our Values team, the Love team, will be available in any and all chats that take place as caring and gentle facilitators, reminders, moderators of the fact that when we come together, whether it is in person or online, we are striving to be our very best, most caring and loving selves. Any one of us can fall a little short at times. And if we do, the facilitators and reminders and moderators from the Living Our Values team, they will just gently and caringly step in, just remind us that our tone matters, what we say matters, how we are together matters, how we embody our community's values together matters. As we hold all of that in preparation for our time together today, I invite you to continue moving forward and finding a place of stillness, grounding, that place of deeper wisdom inside yourself.
Hello, I'm Allison Halerz, and I serve this community as Pianist-in-Residence. The Chalice Flame is a symbol that unites Unitarian Universalists around the world. The shared experience of lighting our chalice together is important, now more than ever. If you are able, please light your chalice or candle along with me. Together, let us say, we light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Another practice that we share each week is our covenant with each other. Through these words, we choose love, we choose kindness, and we choose community. This promise is what binds us together, whether we are able to see each other in person or not. I invite you to say these words with me. The spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another.
Hello, my name is Quiana Perkins, and I am the Social Justice Pastoral Care Coordinator at UUAA. I'm here to provide you a pastoral care update. But before we begin, I'm wondering if we can take 2 big breaths together. This has been an intense time for everyone. Thank you. As you can imagine, the pastoral care team has been pretty busy. We've created a quarantine buddies or a Q buddy system to make sure that everyone is connected in communication during this unique time. We are also holding pastoral care hours via Zoom twice a week, Mondays at 11 a.m. and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. The links for those Zooms are provided in the pastoral care news or can be requested by email. Lastly, I want to emphasize that if you are in need of help in this extraordinary time, please do not hesitate to reach out. We will surround you in the love of this community. You are not alone, and we are in this together. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to remaining in community with you.
My mother lives alone. She's not lonely, but when she learned about the shelter-in-place order, moving and visiting and interacting with her community of friends was very restricted, and suddenly loneliness became a very real possibility, a very real fear, and perhaps it has for you as well. Now, there's another side to being alone. Instead of loneliness, we might think about solitude. Paul Tillich talks about loneliness as the pain of being alone, and solitude as the glory of being alone. Now, people often search out opportunities for solitude, maybe going to a silent retreat or finding extended opportunity for meditation. And those are choices. But now we have not been given a choice. We've been given a time out, time to pause from our usual routines. And even if you're still working from home, it's different. There's a restricted feeling to this, right? We have to adjust to what this is like, working in a different space. And kids, if you are not in school, that's a different routine. And it's something we have to adjust to. Now is a time to grow community out of our solitude. Solitude is a place where we can realize things about ourselves, recognize our own concerns and our fears. And in solitude, I can realize things about others as well. And this is where the deeper intimacy comes from, the intimacy that we open up to. And it's from there we can offer parts of ourselves and make connections. As we hold a couple minutes of silence, I ask you to just settle into a comfortable place, wherever that is for you right now. This is a ritual that belongs to all of us. It's for all ages. It's something I ask you to engage by watching closely, or by bearing witness, or just by being in silence together. You may want to participate actively. You can do that now or even later. I have ribbon. Each ribbon is one of us. And each knot, an emotion or our feelings that are born out of experience. I'm feeling forgotten. I feel loved. I feel outrage. Each knot we tie strengthens the string. Each experience we have, each emotion we allow to be fully felt, strengthens our very being. In moments of solitude, we strengthen our spiritual muscles, muscles that allow us to go deeper, to be more resilient. From a place of solitude, as Nauen says, community grows. Ligare, the Latin to bind together, to connect. Relegare, to rebind, to reconnect. This is what our community, the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor, is all about. This is what it has potential for. This is what our religion, literally, calls us to do. Amen.
If the last couple of weeks for you have been anything like they've been for me, things have been a little tough. It's hard to be away from our friends and out of our normal routine, not able to go to school or the congregation. And it's hard to stay connected, but we're getting creative in how we do that. So today's story is about someone who is used to being on his own and finds connection in an unlikely place. It's called Big Mean Mike. Big Mean Mike was the biggest, toughest dog in the whole neighborhood. He had a big mean bark and big sharp teeth. He wore a big black collar with gleaming silver spikes, and his claws were big and mean and very, very pointy. Best of all, he had a big mean car that he liked to drive around the big mean streets. It made a big mean sound wherever he revved the engine. "Here comes Big Mean Mike," the other dogs would say. "He's the biggest, toughest dog in the whole neighborhood." Everyone knew how big and tough he was, and that was just the way Mike liked it. One Tuesday, Mike decided to buy a new pair of combat boots. He liked the way they made his feet look extra big and mean. He came out of the store and admired his big, shiny car. Then he opened up the big, wide trunk. And there, next to the big, tough spare tire, was a tiny, fuzzy bunny. "Hey," said Mike, "how'd you get in there?" The tiny, fuzzy bunny blinked up at him sleepily. It was very cute. Mike picked up the bunny and quickly set it down on the sidewalk. Big, mean dogs and tiny, cute bunnies did not go together. He peeled out and sped away, revving his engine a few extra times for good measure. On Wednesday, Mike got in his car to drive to the gym. He opened up the glove compartment to get out his gym pass. But when he reached inside for the shiny plastic card, he felt something else instead. Something soft. Something cuddly. He leaned over to peer inside. The tiny, fuzzy bunny was back, and this time it had brought a friend. "Hey, I told you to get out," Mike barked at the first bunny. He pointed at the second bunny. "That goes for you, too." Mike scooped up both bunnies, hoping that no one was looking. He put them down outside the car. He felt their little eyes watching him as he drove away. On Thursday, there were 3 tiny, fuzzy bunnies sitting on the hood. "Get off my car, you bunnies!" Mike shouted. "What if someone sees you up there?" The bunnies did not get off. They looked at him and wiggled their cute little noses. Mike picked them up one by one and put them on the ground. Then he spelled it out for them. "Big, tough dogs do not hang around with tiny, fuzzy bunnies, okay? So beat it, scram, and don't come back." Mike found excuses not to use his car for the next few days. The next weekend, Mike had a ticket to the Monster Truck Show. He'd been looking forward to it for months. Monster trucks were big and mean, just like him. The show was in the next town over. Too far to walk. Mike went out to his car. He looked carefully under the hood. He checked the trunk. Then he peeked inside the glove compartment. "Heh," said Mike. "Nothing to worry about after all." When he got to the stadium, the parking lot was full of big, mean dogs getting out of their own big, mean cars. None of them were as big and mean as Mike, of course, but some came pretty close. Mike turned off the ignition. The key slipped from his grasp and landed on the floor. A pair of tiny white paws reached out from under the seat and picked them up. "Ah!" cried Mike. He stared in dismay as 4 tiny fuzzy bunnies hopped up onto the seat. They twitched their soft bunny ears and blinked their cute little eyes. "No more bunnies!" Mike yelled. "Get out of my car!" The bunnies just sat there, looking at him. "Fine," Mike growled. "Stay in there. I'm not missing the show because of you." He snatched up his keys and slammed the door. The bunnies gazed up at him with their sweet little fuzzy faces. "Gosh, you guys are cute," Mike said. Then he looked around. "I mean, I hate cute. Grr, I'm Big Mean Mike." He started to walk away. Then he stopped and looked around again. A parking lot full of big, mean dogs was not a very good place for little bunnies. He couldn't leave them there alone. Wouldn't be safe. "Grr," Mike growled. He had no choice. "All right, bunnies," he said. "You can come with me, but I don't want the other dogs to see you." Got his gym bag out of the trunk. "Hop in here and be quick about it." The bunnies hopped into the bag. Mike hurried inside and found his seat. The monster truck show was just starting. It was awesome. Mike felt his gym bag moving on the seat beside him. The bunnies were sticking their little heads out, peering around with bright, excited eyes. "All right," Mike whispered. "You can watch. Just try not to let anyone see you." One by one, the bunnies climbed out onto Mike's lap. They nibbled pieces of his popcorn. They bounced in excitement whenever a big mean truck cleared a jump, or a little car got crunched under big tough tires. Mike couldn't bring himself to make them go back in the bag. They were having such a good time. And so was he. It's kind of fun to have someone to watch the show with. Even better to have several someones, even if they were tiny, fuzzy bunnies. When the show was over, Mike noticed a group of big, tough dogs waiting for him at the end of the aisle. "Got some new little friends there, Mike?" one dog asked. "Didn't figure you for the cute and cuddly type," said another. "Guess you're not so big and mean after all," a third dog barked. Soon all the dogs were laughing and pointing. Mike didn't know what to do. This was terrible. His image was ruined. Then one of the bunnies leaned forward and made a tiny, growly sound. Grrr. The other bunnies all joined in. Mike looked down at them. Slowly, he smiled a big, mean smile. Then he looked back at the other dogs. "You know what?" Mike told them. "I don't care what you think. I'm Big Mean Mike. I can hang out with whoever I want. I like these bunnies. They know how to have a good time. And they're adorable. Any of you got a problem with that?" The other dogs all took a step back. "No problem here," the first dog said. "Yeah, we were just kidding around," said the second dog. "Good," said Mike. "Now get out of my way. My friends and I are going home." From that day on, Big Mean Mike went back to driving around the big mean streets in his big mean car. He still did everything in his own big mean way. And everywhere he went, 4 tiny fuzzy bunnies went with him. And that was just the way Mike liked it. The end.
Because the need to help love make its way and justice come alive in the world does not dissipate in times when we are apart or in times of crisis. This work, this community still needs your support in the form of your time, in the form of your companionship, and in the form of your giving, as generously as you know how. Me too. Together, we can continue to accomplish what none of us could accomplish alone. A sprawling community, a network of love for and with each other, bound together by a common covenant to bring justice back to life.
We heard earlier in our service an all ages story about essentially people coming together and finding one another in authenticity, in the fullness of recognizing and accepting each other as unique, as disparate individuals with different needs and different gifts. It represents the very best of what is possible for humanity, the ways in which we can truly be together in community, honoring our own unique experiences and journeys and gifts of who we are. Such continues to be true, even in these virtual ways in which we're coming together. Connection with other human beings remains possible. It's different than what it might typically be, but meaningful, loving connection with others remains possible. You know, a tornado is very quick. It happens and then it dissipates and the damage is done. And then the survivors have to figure out what the new reality is almost immediately after the tornado strikes. And there are other types of natural phenomenon. As hurricanes have amped up and become more frequent and more intense. I recall in our last hurricane season, the phenomena of the slow-moving hurricane, the one that just lingers over a city or an island for almost this indescribable time, creating this prolonged agony as it just lingers and doesn't move very quickly. That's the image that has kind of stayed in my heart and soul as I have been reflecting on what this time, how I've been experiencing the time that we're in. It can feel like a hurricane has just kind of settled above us with its intensity, its forcefulness, its uncertainty, the unpredictability of what violence might happen, of what harm might happen, and not going away, just hovering and lingering. The worry and anxiety and fear related to the coronavirus and COVID-19 has at times felt to me like that, like this unpredictable force of nature that won't go away and is ever present and at risk of causing people I care about and love harm. That's an intense amount of energy to be sitting with day to day. I want you to just kind of just hold the intensity of that. It's similar to a cataclysmic type event that is ongoing for a significant duration of time, that keeps us energetically amped up inside, worried, concerned, anxious, and we can't escape it. Whatever is happening, whatever is going on, is to some degree outside of our control. Now, many of you who have a background in psychology or other related fields of medicine and healing and caring for others, I'm sure it's not lost on you that these are metaphors that speak to societal trauma. This level of activation of amped upness that each of us is experiencing and holding, the uncertainty, the powerlessness. And in the middle of this societal level traumatic experience that is still ongoing, we're still in some early or middle phase of it. We're finding ourselves in patterns of relationship that are not so familiar to us. Some of us are experiencing isolation in ways that may be very hard. It's possible that you may have already been experiencing a level of loneliness, a level of yearning for deeper connection with other human beings. And now, with all these restrictions in place, that yearning may just feel exponentially exacerbated. What had been a soul ache already may feel crushingly unbearable in the times that we're in. There are others among us who are viewing the isolation as an opportunity for solitude, an opportunity to allow our souls to go deeper into ourselves, into our experience, into the communal experience that we are a part of at the societal level. Both of these things may be true at the same time. I certainly have experienced both of these feelings at the same time. At times, moments of loneliness, of feeling isolated and disconnected from people that I want to be connected to. And at other times, really needing greater quietude, separation, stillness, just to ground myself, just to come back to who I am, to have a little bit of time to feel the immense feelings that are moving through me. Feelings of pain, loss, anxiety, sadness, grief for our planet, for our world, for all those who are suffering. This can be a time of feeling both of those things, moment to moment, in different moments. And I want to invite you to be mindful of your own inner experience. Honor it, recognize those times when you might need connection. I've been pushing myself to proactively reach out to people I love and care about in those moments when I feel the loneliness that is exacerbated by isolation. And as best as I can, and this is an imperfect experience to try and live into right now, but in those moments of needing solitude and calmness and stillness and less chatter or even no chatter, I'm pushing myself to not respond for a short time to messages or text messages or calls or the needs of others as I try to tend to my own inner life and the wellness of it, my own feelings of grief and sadness and worry. This is a time in which we can move more deeply into our own spiritual lives, and we have to be able to sense which of these energies we might be yearning for and needing, and recognize that it may even be over the course of a day, the same day, maybe even an hour later, we might move from feeling lonely and wanting to talk to and connect with others to wanting to not talk to or connect with others for a while. All of this and so much more is part of the experience that we're sharing together now.
I remember when I had my first ever parent-teacher conference for my oldest son when he was in preschool. The teacher was talking about how hard he worked, how well he listened to directions, how calm and quiet he was all the time. As she talked, my mouth fell open in disbelief. He was in a particularly challenging phase at that age, and his behavior at home could not have been more different. At some points in the conversation, I was wondering if we were even talking about the same child. When I finally told her this, she reassured me that this was a good sign. If he was acting out at home and not at school, it meant that he saw his home as a safe place to let it all out. It meant that he trusted me. It was not the compliment I was expecting to get, but it was reassuring nonetheless. And over the years, I've realized that teacher's observations are true not just for parents and children, but for all of our closest relationships. It's in those relationships that we feel safe enough to show our full selves, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Those relationships are also the ones that often trigger in us past trauma and pain from our childhood or other relationships. And of course, it's in those relationships that we learn how to push each other's buttons all too well. And this is why those relationships are the ones that are often the hardest. But now let's add a global pandemic to the mix, including widespread fear, uncertainty, grief, and isolation. And let's add to the mix the fact that we're being stuck in the same place together in close quarters day after day with no end in sight. It's no wonder that most of us, if not all of us, have had a meltdown or two or a few in the last couple of weeks. Even if you're not sheltering in place with other people, you may notice some of your close relationships being strained by the stresses that surround us. I know that's true for me as I cope with what's going on in the world while also parenting 3 young children and navigating other close relationships. I don't take it for granted that being able to shelter in place with my children has many benefits. And I don't take it for granted that I have access to plenty of food and housing and safety, which many people don't have access to. In fact, for some people, sheltering in place can bring profound danger because they're already facing domestic violence or abuse. If that applies to you or anyone you know, please know that there is support available. You can reach out to us and we will have more information about a local resource called Safe House at the end of the service. But for those of us dealing with the smaller day-to-day struggles of being in relationships during this time, what can we do to help navigate this with love and compassion? I think the most important thing we can do is just openly acknowledge that this is hard and it's bringing up all kinds of emotions and reactions. The sort of collective trauma that we're all experiencing right now causes us to revert back to our lizard brain, the primitive parts of our nervous system that are responsible for the fight, flight, or freeze responses. How this plays out from person to person or even from minute to minute varies widely. A partner could suddenly need a lot of alone time or a lot of together time. A child could be extra whiny or pick more fights with their siblings for no apparent reason. You can feel fine one minute and then the next minute you're weeping on the floor because you burnt your toast. We're all just a bundle of raw nerves right now, and keeping that in mind can help us to cultivate more compassion for ourselves and for each other. Sometimes just cultivating that compassion and acknowledging it with each other is enough to get us through. But of course, other times we need to dig a little deeper. This week I was able to attend an online meditation class with one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Tara Brach, and I highly recommend her work, especially right now in these hard times. But she actually pointed to the teachings of another wonderful teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, who once said, "It's like a boat full of people crossing over the ocean. If they encounter a storm and everyone on the boat panics, then the boat will turn over. But if there is just one person on the boat who can remain calm, then they can inspire other people to remain calm. Then there is hope for the whole boat." In this talk given many years ago, Thich Nhat Hanh was talking about fear And his solution to fear was to cultivate mindfulness so that we can create this inner peace and be that calm person on the boat. And I agree with him, of course, especially during this time, spiritual practices like mindfulness are essential. But I think that we can't always take on the role of being the calm person in the boat all the time. In relationships, we can rely on one another to take turns being that calm person. Now, of course, with children, we never want them to feel like they have to be the calm ones. So in single-parent families like mine, I have to reach out to other adults virtually for support. But no matter what our family configurations look like, we can support one another and give each other a lot of grace so that at least one person can remain calm. One concrete way we can do this is to ask everyone in your family or your household to brainstorm a list of all the things that are soothing to them. Even the little ones can do this. And it can be anything from talking through my feelings with someone else, to going on a walk, to eating ice cream and watching my favorite TV show. Create these lists for everyone, including yourself, and then share them with each other. And commit to doing one thing on your own list for yourself each day, and also helping at least one other person do one thing on their list every day. Even if you don't live with other people, you can make this list for yourself and commit to doing something for yourself, and then do something for your wider community or your friend network each day, even if it's just sending out a handful of texts with supportive words. Nurturing each other and ourselves during this time can help us to get through even the hardest moments. Of course, no matter how many coping strategies we use, there will be times when it feels like everything is falling apart. We will make mistakes. We will cause each other pain, anxiety, frustration. During these times, it can be helpful to think about the Unitarian Universalist tradition of living in covenant. A covenant is just a list of agreements about how we will be together, how we will treat each other. We say them explicitly in our congregations each week, of course, but often we have either explicit or implicit covenants in our own families. The nice thing about covenants is that, unlike strict commandments, they assume that we will stumble and fall and break them. And they assume that we can always find our way back into relationship again. I know in my own family, we created an explicit covenant that we hang in our kitchen. Many years ago, we started this, and to this day, there's very few parts of it that I could tell you from memory. We learned the hard way that brevity and simplicity are virtues when it comes to creating covenants. But the one part of it we do remember from heart is the closing line. We adapted it from one of my favorite readings, A Litany of Atonement by the Reverend Robert Eller Isaacs. It's in our gray hymnal, the Singing the Living Tradition. So our closing line reads, "When we break our covenant, we will begin again in love." In the coming days and weeks, may we all find ways to name how we feel and what we need. May we all find moments of calm to carry us through the storm. And when we stumble, may we all begin again and again in love. May it be so, and blessed be.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to where you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul.
Because we have sung together, because we have spent time in silence together, because we have stood and sat with one another, even across the air in our different locations, may we be stronger for it. May we find more solace than stubbornness in our week. Good gracious, may we find plenty of singing. May the evidence of our togetherness be woven up in the lives we lead until we meet again and beyond. Amen. Blessed be. Go in peace.